Hi, this is Jason Leahy, Executive Director of the Illinois Principals Association. Thank you for joining me for this IPA talk, and I'm fortunate to be joined. It's September 30th, 2019, with Dr. Carmen Ayala, who is our Illinois State Superintendent of Schools. Thank you, Dr. Ayala, for being with me.
Absolutely, Jason.
So
My
this
pleasure.
So this is the first one on video.
Yes, it is.
You were kind enough to join me for an IPA podcast, and that was painless enough that we were able to get you on camera today. So thank you for that.
Yeah, we still might hear the train sirens, though. I can't
well,
do anything about that.
Downtown Springfield, that's just the nature of the beast. That's okay. So this being September 30th, a couple of things just to let people know what's coming ahead. We're on the front end of National Principals Month, which is this October. Obviously, we're excited about that. And as part of that, you're going to be joining us for our annual conference, which will be coming up in a couple of weeks in Peoria. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
Absolutely,
it.
My pleasure.
So a few things just curious about. So I followed you and the state board, of course, via Twitter and Facebook and such. So see that you're getting around to some different schools in various places. Just curious about what you're seeing happening out there with kids.
Well, I had the opportunity a few weeks ago to visit the Olympia School District in Stanton, middle of the state.
Right.
Middle of cornfields.
That's exactly right. I used to play state basketball tournaments and stuff there. Oh, sure. When I was a kid, you bet.
Yeah. All I know is the car was going through these roads that were, cornfields on both sides. We finally got there. And it was just an interesting experience to see that in the middle of, the state in central Illinois, there's a district that had installed 4,200 solar panels on their schools, in 4 of their schools, and it powers more than half of their district. Right. That was just amazing. The cost is financed through a subsidized loan, and after it's all said and done, they will cut their solar energy or their energy costs by $250,000 each year. Oh my! So that was real exciting. They're not only making an investment to save resources, but it's a wonderful learning opportunity for the students.
Oh, really?
And so we got to visit the school, a middle school and the high school, and saw just some neat STEM activities that the students were working on, trying to figure out energy and force and building car ramps and seeing, force of energy and those kinds of things. So that was really neat. And to see the students really describe in detail the formulas and the impact and how that happens and why it happens, that was really exciting. They had to also work on this project, but also begin to think of it in terms of creating a patent.
Oh, really?
So that was a really neat twist. I also went up north, North Chicago School District 187, and visited a dual language school. So you know that learning language is a passion. So I visited students in kindergarten, first, second grade, and sat down, and they were already speaking quite fluently by, second grade. So that was real exciting, and that's an example of the innovation that is occurring across the state, from STEM to language learning to solar panel energy and how that is infused in the learning environment. Those are the exciting things that I'm seeing as I visit across the state. Mm-hmm.
Which is nice that there are many positive stories to
Absolutely.
tell. And yes. Light of some of the other things that we sometimes are dealing with out in the media and such like that. And it warms my heart, being a former physics teacher myself, to hear about some of the things happening there in Olympia. So, beyond that, of course, the work with the state board continues. I know that you're continuing to get yourself acclimated. There's a lot going on always. I do know at the last board meeting that the state board spent some time kind of wrestling with the strategic plan and the strategic goals of the agency now moving forward. So what can you tell us about that and where the focus is going to lie moving forward?
Well, we're currently working on 3 big goals. Okay. A goal for students, a goal for the learning conditions, and a goal for educator quality. Mm-hmm. And so those would be centralized goals that we will be working towards. We'll have 4 priority areas that we're thinking through right now: student assessment, evidence-based funding, more of a focus on the second piece of evidence-based funding, which is the equity piece, educator preparedness, support and success, where we'll be looking at recruitment, recognition and support for our teachers, really focusing on addressing the teacher pipeline, the teacher shortage, and those kinds of things. And then our system of support. How do we support our schools, particularly those schools that are struggling the most? We're going to use 4 principles, 4 lenses, if you will, that every decision will be made through. One is equity, making sure that every single student in the state of Illinois has what he or she needs to be successful. Quality, rigor, and putting out the best that we can. Collaboration, we'll be seeking out more and more feedback from the field with the major decisions that we're making in the agency. And then community. How do we engage communities and families? And we've put in place an actual department dedicated to family and community engagement. And so all of that with research and data and continuous improvement, just circling all of those priority areas and principles that we'll be working towards.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm very excited to hear about the community aspect of things, because it feels like the more and more I'm reading, related to student trauma, social emotional kinds of issues, is just, a feeling of disconnected, not necessarily just in school, that might be part of it, but just feeling like there's a lack of connection, relational connection beyond school walls as well. So that will be very interesting and excited to see that be a part of the mix.
Part of the relationships, as you said, it's social emotional learning, it's cultural responsiveness, it's all of those things, and how we can really work with our communities because we can't do it alone. Agreed,
for sure, absolutely. So many other things that are currently kind of in play, of course, because the work doesn't stop. So we've got ESSA, I know that the state board wrestled with here recently as we were kind of talking prior to the recording here. You also mentioned making sure that we brought up the budget hearings. You got Perkins 5 out there. So a lot of things happening related to that. What do educators need to be doing to make sure that they're staying engaged?
The big message is to look out for these dates and places and to provide us the feedback. We really want to look at field and stakeholder feedback to help formulate the final plan that will go into the governor's office and then ultimately to the U.S. Department of Ed for our Perkins 5 state plan. The ESSA amendment, we revealed what the first flush of stakeholder feedback was, and so we're still asking people, here's where it landed. Are you agreeing? Are you not agreeing? What else can you think of? And we've got time to be able to put that into place. Budget hearings are coming up. Right. We're now ramping up for the budget cycle. And so there are various budget hearings across the state where people will be able to provide their feedback in terms of the agency budget. So those are all very critical, big pieces that we really want to make sure that we are taking in the feedback and the contributions from the field.
Yeah, you bet. Well, I will tell you, I know you were at IASA's conference here recently, just speaking about budgets, and I will say, though, we have to remain vigilant, and have to be cognizant that resources need to be well shepherded and taken care of, that I felt a greater sense of optimism in the field than maybe we have in the last several years, which I think the fact that we've had budgets the last couple of years, that we've seen a commitment to the new funding formula, all of that just seems to be a positive thing for a change.
Yeah, I think it's a good time and a good place, but as you said, we have to continue to be vigilant. We have to continue to be good stewards of the resources that we do have. We do have to pay attention to how equitably they are distributed and how funds are being used for the different populations of students that have different needs across the state. And so I think there's a lot of great work that will be done. It's like the timing, the stars are aligning, right. The timing is right. It's an exciting time.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be very important that we all gather together and really just continue to move forward.
Yeah, agreed. So the last thing I wanted to touch on, Dr. Ayala, and I know this is something that's really important to you, and putting the political rancor aside here, we do have to deal with, making sure that we're caring for all of our students. And I know our immigrant children in our schools is something that we need to make sure that we're doing a good job with. So just kind of curious, obviously you've got some expertise and experience in this area. I'm just curious about your perspective on that and any counsel that you would give educators out there as they're dealing with these kids.
Yeah, certainly it's not an easy time, and particularly for certain students that we have, regardless of their documentation or undocumented status. We are required to provide a free and public education to every single student that walks through our schools. We're not an immigration agency. We're not, even with ICE, if ICE comes to the school, for example, when I was a district superintendent, they referred the agent directly to me, and we would look at legally what could be provided or not provided. No child should ever be turned down. Yeah. Enrollment should occur, and all of the programs, the resources, everything that any child would be able to have, all students should be able to have. And so there should be no question. Schools should not be requiring Social Security numbers or anything that would reveal their legal status in this country. They have no obligation, schools are under no obligation at all to enforce any kind of immigration law. And so our major task and responsibility is to the education of the children, and it means all children. And so I want to make sure that schools understand that. It's a very sensitive topic. These students are being put through a lot when we talk about social emotional learning and some of the trauma that they may be experiencing. Schools need to be safe places where they know they can go, they can get an education, and that they're going to feel safe.
Yeah, you bet. And I know that the state board has put out and makes available plenty of resources. Could go on the agency's website and find those things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you bet.
There's a guidance information on our website.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Thank you for reminding me.
Well, I appreciate that. Absolutely. Well, I always tell people, you want to find something out, go to our website. It's usually the best place to go. Well, Dr. Ayala, as always, thanks for spending a few minutes here with me. I know there's a lot of ground we could cover on a whole host of things, but obviously these issues are really critical, and we're excited to have you joining us at our annual conference here in a couple of weeks in Peoria, so that'll be great. My name's Jason Leahy again with the Illinois Principals Association. Fortunate to have with me Dr. Carmen Ayala, our Illinois State Superintendent of Schools. If there's anything the IPA can do for you, never hesitate to give us a call, or you can always check us out on the web at ilprincipals.org.